How's it going, everyone? Long time no see. It's been a long time since I recorded a video. Things have just been so busy on my side. If you don't, if you've been following my channel, you would know I had a baby last year. She's what? She's like 14 months now, and I've just been too busy with real life stuff to really do any recording. But with the announcement of Path of Exile 2, well, it's already been announced, but the new teasers and trailers they've released out of ExileCon, as well as the announcement of 3.22, the new league, I've been just so hyped. When I saw all of that content, I was just like, I need to get on a platform somewhere and just share my excitement, and hope there are other people who are just as excited as me about the new league that's being released, because I'm really looking forward to playing some more Path of Exile. I have been playing on and off PoE. I played a little bit of Crucible League. I played, what was the league before? I played a good amount of Sanctum League. I just haven't been able to play it in a steady format. I'll play 30 minutes there, 40 minutes there, but I've never been able to just sit down, play for 3 hours like I used to do it, record for 3 hours straight. It wasn't happening, but I did manage to play some Diablo 4 earlier, and I noticed that it wasn't scratching the itch, right? So I wanted to complete some Path of Exile, and when I went on Reddit, I noticed there were also a lot of new players. So I figured, you know what, I want to make a new character because I don't have the time to figure out on the fly next league how to play a character. This is a good chance for me to create a character as a test bed, give me a couple weeks to just try out leveling a new character, see if it works. I have an idea of what I want to play, and then also sort of do a bit of like a beginner walkthrough series while we do this. And for those of you who've been to my channel before, every league we basically do a let's play, and where we really cater to new players. And I think this is the perfect time to sort of do one of these series. The new league is coming out. You got a lot of players from Diablo 4. If that's where you're coming from, welcome. And I maybe you don't necessarily end up sticking around on this channel, but I hope you see this video and go, hey, you know what, Path of Exile, it looks like a fun game, maybe I should give it a try. And I hope that's what you get out of this, because really I'm just looking to share my enthusiasm. I want Path of Exile to be played by more people, because I think it's just such a good game, and I'm so excited about what's coming up. Let's get into it. So assuming you already know what Path of Exile is, maybe you don't. It's an action RPG. There are 7 characters in total. Before you get started, you have to select the league. There are 3 leagues. There's the Standard League, and there are the Challenge Leagues. And generally what I recommend is to just pick the Challenge League. There's the Challenge League. So in this Challenge League is Crucible, and they act like seasons. There are 3 or 4 month seasons where you start a new character, you play through the season. At the end of the season, your characters in these leagues get moved to Standard. So this is sort of like the base for all characters that go. Crucible characters, which is this league, Crucible characters, you play that for 4 months. End of the 4 months, Crucible rolls into Standard. Hardcore, and what hardcore typically means is if your hardcore character dies, you cannot play in the league anymore, and then they move to Standard. So at the end of the day, everything goes to Standard, right? And a lot of the questions you see on Reddit and from new players generally is like, what character should I make? There's only 2 weeks left in Crucible League. Which character should I be making? A character in Crucible, or should I be making it in Standard? And typically I say just make it in the Challenge League. At the end of the 2-3 weeks when the league is over, in this case, you're going down to Standard anyway, so you might as well try out this new Challenge League content, because if it does not roll into the base game, the content is gone, right? So typically Challenge Leagues, like it says right here, Challenge Leagues are ideal place to play Path of Exile in a fresh economy. So everyone starts on a new character, everyone starts at level 1, fresh economy, nobody has items. it's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting because everybody starts at the same spot, and you get to test out, new content, new builds, with everybody else, and everybody is just as it feels fresh to everybody, right? So I recommend making a character in Crucible. You have the choice of making a solo self-found character or a ruthless character. If you're new, you don't need to worry about this, I think. Solo self-found basically means you cannot party and you cannot trade, and ruthless is like items barely drop. I do not recommend. So let's make a character in Crucible League. There are 7 characters in total, and if you are a new player, maybe you only see 6 because the Scion is not available until you make it into Act 3, I think. Act 4, actually. So, no wait, Act 3. Anyways, the point is, there are 7 characters. There's the Templar, who is like a strength intelligence mix. Shadow is dexterity intelligence. Marauder is pure strength. Ranger is pure dex. Duelist is dex strength, and witch is pure int. And they basically have 3 subclasses, which you actually cannot see here, but they like ascend into those 3 classes, and that typically defines a lot of builds. But at the end of the day, you could pick a lot of characters. You could pick a Marauder and he could use spells. You could pick a Ranger and he could be a melee fighter. There's lots of archetypes in this game. You're just gonna have to play through it. Take a look at all the ascendancies if you really don't know what to pick, or you can just do what I do. Just copy what I'm about to do, right? So I am going to be playing a Frost Witch. I think that's the build I want to test out. I want to see how it feels while leveling. I haven't played one of these builds in a very, very long time, so I'm gonna have to just try it out. It's been so long since I've leveled one of these characters that I feel like I'm gonna be super rusty at it as well. So the gist of the story is basically that you have been exiled from the land of Oriath. You land on the beaches of Rayclast, and here, this is Twilight Strand. So you come, pick up this wand, and I'm gonna skip the dialogue. And you can follow it if you want, but for the most part, this game, the story, it's fragmented. So even if you try to listen to all the dialogue, you might not understand all the story anyways. It's not like Diablo 4 where there's a clear story. And I'm gonna use Diablo 4 as a reference a lot because I just played Diablo 4, so that's like my baseline right now. So you kill this guy. He drops a skill gem, a fireball. Skill gem, you say? That's weird. Skills in this game are actually itemized, so they drop as gems. You can also buy them, and the idea is these gems have their own levels. So you can see there's a little XP bar. It says 1 out of 70 here, and your skills level through these gems. And you socket these gems into your equipment. So in this case, this is a blue gem. Put that into a blue socket, and all of a sudden the fireball skill is in your skill bar because I socketed it into my gear. You don't have to socket it into a weapon. It could be socketed into your helmet if you have a blue socket in your helmet, or it could be socketed in your chest armor if you have that. I think a lot of players make that mistake where they only socket it into their weapon, thinking, okay, my attack skills go into my weapon, my defense skills go into my chest. You don't need to worry about something like that. As long as it's equipped somewhere on your gear, you can use the skill. So I have fireball now. When I press the spacebar, which I remapped, but you could say, by default it's right click, it casts a fireball and it consumes, what is this, 6 mana, right? Now, mana-wise, there is a default regen, but you could also use your flasks to regen mana. You start with 2 life flasks and 1 mana flasks. Don't be afraid to use these flasks. If you mouse over these flasks, you can see that it says consume 6 of 24 charges of use, and I have 24 charges. So I have 4 uses of this small mana flask. But it's not like D4 where these orbs drop and you pick up more flask charges. The way it works is every time you kill a monster, they give back a certain amount of flask charges. So it's like normal monsters give back 1 flask charge, and rare monsters give back like 5. So the more you kill, the more charges you you recover, and the idea is, you're encouraged to just get into the fray, keep fighting, and these life flasks actually make up a lot of your mana regeneration as well as your health regeneration. So, don't be afraid to use it. Don't be like, oh, I'm gonna save my flasks. I'm so scared to use it. Don't be like that. Just use it as often as you can. We spent 10 minutes in the tutorial zone, but it's gonna be like this for a while. So bear with me. There's a lot going on in Path of Exile, but at the same time, I don't think you need to learn everything at once. This game kind of drip feeds you content. It's just that there's a lot of content. There's been so many years of content that it is a little intimidating. So the next thing you find in the tutorial zone is this thing called the support gem, Arcane Surge. Long story short, support gems support the active skills. So notice how there are two sockets, they're both blue, and there's a little line between them, which means that they are linked. So if I were to link a support gem to my active skill, now my fireball is linked to the Arcane Surge support gem right here, right? So these two are now linked, which means fireball is supported by Arcane Surge. So you notice how now I have this little Arcane Surge effect when I use Fireball. Basically, it gives me more damage and mana regeneration if I spend mana using Fireball. Basically, you can add extra effects onto your spells. You can add more projectiles. You could do more damage. And a lot of the damage in this game is going to come from supporting your active skills with your one active skills with as many support gems as possible. So using Diablo 4 as a reference again, right? You have like a basic skill, and then you have a resource generator and a resource spender, and then you have a defensive skill, and you have an ultimate skill, and you have this and that. And in Path of Exile, really what you want to do is you want to try and support one active skill with as many support gems as possible. That's where a lot of your damage is coming from. So just keep that in mind. I'll just stop right there. So once we kill Hillock, we automatically hit level 2. For those of you who tried to clear the whole area, and I don't know if you actually hit level 2 if you clear the whole area, but you don't have to, right? You could go immediately to Hillock once you kill him, which is this guy guarding the gate. You hit level 2 and you press P and you open this up and you go, what the fuck? Right? Like, that was my reaction when I first saw this. And this is basically the passive skill tree of Path of Exile. You have skills, which are part of these skill gems, right? And you build around these skill gems, and then you use the path, your skill tree to allocate nodes to build around these skills. So, there are games where it's like you build around a class, right? Like, I want to be a paladin, I want to be a warrior, and I'm going to look for tanky skills, and I'm going to build out a skill set like that. In this game, it's more like I want to play, in my case, I want to play Ice Nova. I want to play ice skill. So I'm going to look for passives on this tree that basically give me increased cold damage or increased spell damage right over here. And the rest is survivability. So what I'm going to do is, to start, you have to select one of 2 points. I'm going to select spell damage. This part is intimidating. I think a lot of players see they see this tree and they fall in one of 2 camps. One camp is like, no thank you, and then you hit uninstall, right? You're like, this is way too intimidating, I don't know what's going on. Hard pass. Fair enough. Just know that, one, if you really don't like figuring it out on your own, you can just follow a guide, and you're not gonna lose out on this game because there's so much to do in this game. You're not gonna feel like you're losing out on this learning experience by not going through this yourself. You don't need to do that to yourself. You can follow a guide. The second point I want to make, though, is that if you don't want to follow a guide, if you just follow a certain set of standards, you're going to be able to build a character just fine. You're going to make it through the campaign. You're going to get to maps, and maybe you'll struggle a little bit, but you're going to learn a lot. And then when you do your second character, either at the end of the season or whenever, you're going to know a lot more, and you're going to be able to get a lot further. And maybe with the second character, you go, you know what? I'm gonna check out a guide. There are lots of curated guides in this game. They've been super optimized. There are lots of builds in this game. But now that you understand how everything works, and you'll never understand how everything works, but at least you understand how your character worked, you can try and fix the mistakes that you made in the past, right? So that's one camp where you look at this and go, oh, it's too hard, I don't know what to do. And if that's the case, either follow a guide or, you know, I mean, I can tell you some tips on how to make a build without having to follow a guide, and you'll make it through the campaign. But once you get into end game, you will hit a wall at some point, because you do need to know a lot in this game in order to get really, really far. Okay, I'm talking end game. Now the second camp of people are, you know, you open this thing and you go, you just start drooling, right? Like the drool, it doesn't stop. It covers the floor. There's a little puddle under your feet, and you don't care, because you look at this and you go, I'm gonna just dive right into this. What's this? What's this? Holy cow. Okay, there are these small nodes, I understand, and then there's these bigger nodes that do a lot more than the small nodes, and there are like even bigger nodes, like these things. These do like major things. Oh my god, you can make all kinds of, and you get all excited and stuff. And that was sort of me, because when I first saw this game, I saw this tree, I just got really, really excited, because it felt like there were endless possibilities to make a build. It's not necessarily true, but you know, it's not an illusion either. It's not like, you know, oh, really, you see this tree and reality is there's only 5 viable builds. You can make all kinds of builds. Some are better than others, but for the most part, you know, you could try out all kinds of stuff in this game, and that was the draw for me, of why I wanted to play Path of Exile in the first place. But in general, when you're going through the campaign, figure out a skill you want to play, build around that. You know, I want to play Fireball. Okay, I'm going to pick up spell damage because it's a spell. Look at the tags on the skill itself. I mouse over Fireball, it says it's a projectile. It's a spell. It's AoE. There's area of effect, and it's fire. Okay, I'm going to go pick up spell damage. I'm going to go pick up elemental damage. I'm going to pick up fire damage. And then as I'm doing that, I'm trying to get to like other fire nodes, I'm going to pick up defenses, right? Your focus should be damage, defenses. And defense is actually very, very key. Don't try to build a glass cannon. You're going to have a very bad time, I think, especially as a new player. So, all that aside, just don't worry. Pick a skill. Just get right into it. You'll be fine. Honestly, you'll be fine. If you're like me, where it's like, I don't want to spend, you know, 3 hours of my day looking up guides and reading wiki and then spend 30 minutes playing the game. Just jump in. You'll be fine, right? Follow some, don't jump in completely blind, right? But if you just follow like a certain set of rules, like, and it only takes 5 minutes to explain what those rules are, and I'll get to that in a second, as we keep playing, right? Yeah, you're gonna be able to get through the game. It'll be fun, I hope. Just get through the initial like confusing part, right? So when you're here, by the way, you can choose a skill. This is like one of the starting skills they give you. You can choose other ones. You know, we already have Fireball. You can actually click this exclamation mark, and it'll show you what the skill does. So this one is Freezing Pulse. You shoot a Freezing Pulse, right? This one over here is, what is this? Lightning Tendrils. You shoot tendrils of lightning. You know, it's pretty straightforward. Here's what it looks like. This one is Kinetic Bolt. You use your wand and you shoot bolts out of your wand. It actually looks really cool. I played this one league. I really enjoyed it. And it actually tells you, like, here are how you can support, right? Because support gems is so important in this game. Here's how you can support, you know, Freezing Pulse later on. You know, we recommend you put lesser multiple projectiles onto Freezing Pulse, and that way you'll shoot multiple projectiles. And this is where your skill gets really, really strong, right? Faster projectiles, it goes faster, it shoots further. Cold Penetration for damage, you know, Spell Echo, so you can cast it faster and twice. Take a look at these, see which one you like. In my case, I'm going to pick Freezing Pulse because I want to play a cold spell. So I'm going to be ditching the Fireball. In this game also, items come unidentified, so you have to use these things called Scroll of Wisdom, and you have to identify your items. So I'm going to identify my belt, So, and then I'm gonna sell this stuff, and you're gonna notice something weird. When you sell things, there's no gold, and that's one aspect. And by the way, as we're doing this, I'm gonna go into the next zone because skill-wise, I picked everything I need. Don't worry about it anymore. I have freezing pulse. That's gonna be my skill. Let's just go. When you go to the when you go to the NPC and you sell your items, you're gonna notice that you're not getting gold, which is weird, right? And basically, the economy of Path of Exile is built around money sinks or gold sinks. I don't know how you want to call it exactly, but the idea is like every item that you have in this game is used to craft in one way or another, right? So these scrolls of these scroll fragments that you get from selling white items to the NPC, when you get 5 of them, it gives you a scroll of wisdom. So now you have the choice of like, do I use my scroll of wisdom or do I use those scrolls of wisdom to buy other advanced currencies, right? They're all used for crafting some one way or another. So one example of crafting would be like, there are multiple tiers of items in this game. There's normal items, which is white. There's blue items, which is magic, and there's rare items, which is yellow, and then there's one last tier, which is unique items, right? Or legendaries, however you want to call them, which are like these orange items, orange text. And like you could use a piece of crafting currency to turn this white item magic or turn it blue. And then you could use another piece of currency to turn this blue item yellow, or you can use a separate piece of currency to turn your white item yellow and skip the blue phase altogether. So everything, you get all kinds of like bubblegum currency as you play through the game, and the idea is all of them, it's all used as a form of crafting in this game, and people typically trade using those crafting those crafting currencies. So the economy, the player base is pretty much decided on how much things cost, and it's pretty much a bartering system. People have to like whisper each other to trade. There is a trade website, but it's a third-party website which basically is not in game, and I would say that's probably like a downside. I think a lot of people don't like that, but I'm just giving you a heads up, right? That's how trading works in this game. You trade using these currencies, and you say, I'll give you 10 of my orbs of thingies that turn into rare, right? Or I'll give you 20 orbs for that item, and people trade like that. So yeah, so as you play, you're gonna notice that not only are you leveling up, your skills are leveling up too. And if you're playing on a PC, when your skills level up, you're gonna see a little indicator on the right side. Let's see, are my skills gonna level up soon? Not really, huh? Let me do this. You're gonna see a little indicator that shows, the gem is leveled up. You can see it right here, right? Once it levels up, you press the press sign, and that levels up the skill. And then those skills will, therefore do more damage as you level them up. If you're playing on controller or on a console, those items will level up on their own, and you can actually go into your inventory settings if you want to disable leveling up. For the most part, you don't need to worry about disabling it. The only reason you would want to disable leveling auto leveling and a skill gem is if I don't know, it doesn't meet like stat requirements. It needs too much strength if you level it up, and you don't plan on getting that much strength anytime soon, right? Something like that. So we're gonna go into the next area, which is the mud flats, and you actually have a choice. You can either go into the mud flats, which is where I am right now, and that's sort of like the min-maxy way of doing it, or you can just go straight into Tidal Island, which is a zone. It's like over here, right? So right before I entered the mud flats, it was basically a crossroads at the waypoint. You could either go into a Tidal Island, or you could go into mud flats. I'm just gonna pick to go mud flats, and then I'll go back for Tidal Island after. But the idea is you want to do both. You want to do both quests. While you're in this area, you're going to notice these exclamation marks. There are 3 exclamation marks in the zone. You want to go to each of these Roa nests and click on them and get this glyph. So there are 3 glyphs in total. And the way the quest works is once you get the 3 glyph, you can open up this little chamber, this little cave. You know, it's like a little 3 glyph puzzle pieces, whatever you want to call it, right? So let's just get that done really quickly. And as we're doing this, we can quickly talk about items. So what items should I be picking up? What items should I be selling? And, you know, the answer to that is a little complicated, right? The answer is like, well, you probably at some point you don't want to pick up white items anymore. Right now, right now at this zone, I'm picking up white items just because I know I'm going back to town in a second and I'm gonna sell it all, right? But really, you don't need to pick up white items. The only reason to pick it up is if you don't have like a piece, right? So like if I don't have any gloves right now, picking up white gloves is better than nothing, right? That's the gist of it. But you know, soon enough you'll be picking up blue items only, and then after that you'll be picking yellow items only, pretty much, if I want to like really generalize it, right? Blue items are actually quite useful still for things like boots and amulets and jewelry. Weapon wise, you know, I'm picking up a bunch of maces and clubs and stuff. There's really no reason to do so because I'm gonna be using wands for my build. Wands give spell damage as an implicit, so you know, even as a white item it comes with spell damage. Scepters have elemental damage. I could go with scepters, but you can't dual wield wand and scepter, so you have to choose either scepter or wand. I'm gonna go the wand route, which means, you know, if you see clubs and swords and scepters and they're dropping as like white items, there's really no need to pick it up, right? I did it because to be quite honest with you, as I was talking just now, I was on autopilot and I just picked it up without thinking. But you know, there's really no reason to pick those up. Now blue items, you could pick it up, and you know, the question is, should I identify it or not? Early on, for, you know, if you don't have blue items equipped, obviously identify it and you equip it. And then as you know, get later on into the game, you pretty much stop picking up blue items and you're like targeting like rare items at that point, right? So the second gem I'm gonna get is Frost Bomb. You also get Frost Blink. So let's look for some blue sockets and socket those in. So Frost Blink is a movement skill. You really want to play around movement skills in this game, so you know, you pick that up basically. And then Frost Bomb debuffs enemies, making them more, it says cold exposure, and basically cold exposure applies -15 to cold resistance, so they take more damage from my freezing pulse. That's a very good supporting skill, so I'm going to be picking that up. Now I mentioned the Tidal Island stuff. You know, I could either go Mudflats and Tidal Island. When I got to the submerged passage, you know, you go through the entrance and I pick up this waypoint. I'm going to go back to the coast, and now I'm going to go do my Tidal Island quest, right? Going back into item discussion. So like, as I pick up these blue items, what kind of stats should I be looking for, right? So for weapons, and you basically, this is pretty much the same all the way to the end of the campaign, I would say. You basically can break it down into like a couple categories. So I'll start with weapons, which might be the easiest stuff to define. Weapons, you essentially just look at it and see like how much spell damage is there. If you're playing a spell, right? How much spell damage is there? How much flat spell damage is there? And what I mean by that is there are 2 categories of spell damage. There's spell damage, which is like % spell damage, or % cold damage if you're playing a cold skill. And so like 10% increase to spell damage, 15% increase to cold damage. You know, this wand just implicitly, you know, just by default, it comes with 8% increased spell damage. Okay, you know, I have that much spell damage. And then there are mods on these wands that could roll like, I don't know, Spells have 1 to 3 increased fire damage. That's flat damage, not percentage, right? Like it's like a flat number. So how much of that is there? And based off of that, you would indicate, you know, okay, this is a better weapon or this isn't a better weapon. Unlike Diablo 4, it's not just like, oh, here's a green arrow that tells you this weapon is better. It really doesn't tell you. And what you'll have to do is you have to open up your character tab. So you press C, you mouse over or you click your skill. So over here, I click Freezing Pulse. I go into Offense tab and there's a damage per second indicator. You could also, you know, mouse over it right over here on your skill bar. So like say I unequip this wand. So what happens if I have just one wand? Well, my DPS on Freezing Pulse is 38. What if I dual wield it? It's 41. Okay, my DPS is higher, so let's go with that. So if I pick up, you know, another weapon or I pick up another chest, you know, what are my defenses? Well, okay, I go to my defense tab. Okay, how does it look? Well, in this case, my energy shield changes, but I lose evasion. I think I like evasion. I'll keep evasion, right? You basically end up in that situation. But for weapons, look for spell damage, look for flat spell damage. If you're playing melee or bows or something, look for it's basically the same thing. Look for like attack damage, physical damage, elemental damage, and then look for flat elemental damage. That's basically it. So that's how you figure out, you know, what's good on a weapon. For armor pieces, so this is like helmets, body armor, gloves. Look for life and look for resistance. I know that there's like a lot of stats like armor, strength, intelligence. They all seem good. Health regen. Just here's one of those things. It's like if you want your build to be successful, you only need a few like pieces of solid advice. One of them is if you want to make it through the campaign without too much pain, look for life, number 1, and then look for resistances, number 2 on your gear. Every piece of gear, right? Like this one here, it's 16% increased armor, 9% increased cold resistance. You look at it and you go, cool, 2 stats, two good stats. But I look at it and I think 9% cold resistance. I'm not looking at the armor. I'm like, it's useful later on, but for the most part, just don't think about it too much early on. Just look for, do you have life? Do you have resistance? Right? So I'm identifying this yellow piece of gear and you look at it and you go, holy crap, there's too many stats. Is this better or is this better? Well, obviously this one's white. It doesn't have any stats, but say you have 2 of these yellows. Like, how do I compare these two? Right? The answer is you look at this and you go, it has 10 cold resistance, 7 lightning resistance. So that's like what, 17% total resistance. If this piece of armor had like 20%, it's like a blue item, but it had one stat that's like 20% to fire resistance, I think I might go for the blue, right? For the most part, and I'm generalizing like crazy here, you know, the plus 10 strength, 18 mana, like it's nice, right? But look at life, like plus, you know, plus 30 to life, and then plus 17 to total resistance. Look at life and look at resistance. So I'm going to equip this because obviously it's better. If you go into character tab, you go into defenses, you notice there's a fire resistance, a cold resistance, a lightning resistance. Okay, and this is really important in this game. Defenses are really important. You want to get your resistance to 75%, maybe by Act 4. Okay, the first couple acts, the gear just isn't good enough to get to that high of a number, but you want to try and keep your resistance as high as possible. And once it's at that 75, 70 range, you know, try and get life and then balance it out. Try and get as much life as possible while keeping your resistances as close to 75 as possible. If you go over, you can go over 75, but it only counts as 75. So say I have 100% fire resistance. I'm overcapped basically, which means I have 75 resistance. But if you were to debuff me and you like subtract 25 fire resistance from my character, my 100 goes down to 75, so I still have 75 resistance. That's all overcapping means, right? So armor pieces, helmets, even rings, right? Like even rings and amulets, every piece of gear, look for life and look for resistance. Rings and amulets can roll things like stats as well, and that's only useful for basically meeting attribute requirements. So the stats in this game are not that useful unless you actually build around it. If you look here, like I don't know, like I'm an int character, right? Like I cast spells. So I'm like, wow, I want to get as much intelligence as possible. In Diablo 4, the more intelligence you get, the more damage you do. You know, it's not the number one stat, but it's not a bad stat. In this game, intelligence gives you a little bit of mana, it gives you a little bit of energy shield. It doesn't give you damage, right? So even if you were to stack a crazy amount of intelligence, it doesn't do too much to your build. It gives you some mana, sure, but like you're gonna be fine in terms of mana, I think. Um, so you only really do it to meet, like, you know, this wand needs 120 intelligence in order to be equipped. Okay, I need more intelligence. This chest needs 60 strength in order for me to equip it. Okay, I need more strength. That's basically what the stats are really for while you're getting through the campaign. And I say all this with a caveat because people have roasted me before for this, for this take. But like, that's all stats are for while you're going through the campaign. Okay, once you get into the end game, builds get a little bit more nuanced, and you could have builds that are more stat focused. Don't worry about it. Just you're not there yet, right? So now that you've picked up the medicine chest, which was the quest reward in the title island, talk to Nessa, and she'll give you one of 3 flasks as a reward, or 3 flasks. You can pick one. Pick the quicksilver one. So movement speed is really important in this game. I know medium life, you're like, ooh, medium life flask, that's better than my small life flask. Medium mana flask, better than my small mana flask. Pick the quicksilver flask. That's the one you go for. It gives you 40% increased movement speed, and you want to try and use it as often as possible. So I'm gonna pick it up, I'm gonna equip it, and then you also get another support gem. And actually, none of these support gems are that good for me. I'll pick up, I don't know, elemental proliferation, but I'm not that interested here. Actually, those support gems don't do too much. So notice how, like, I picked up these blue items, and I'm just gonna sell them without identifying it, purely because identifying it does nothing for me, right? Like, these are melee weapons. This is a sword, this is a mace, this is a sword. I don't use those things, so I'm just gonna sell it for currency, and not waste my scrolls of wisdom. I think early on in the game, scrolls of wisdoms are quite limited, especially when you're a new player that just likes to pick up everything and identify everything. You're just gonna run out of scrolls like super fast. So don't worry about identifying things, like especially weapons that make no sense to your character. Which is also why later on in the game you stop picking up blue items, because you don't want to be wasting your scrolls of wisdom on blue items that you're probably not going to use, right? Okay, so now that we're done with the Tidal Island quest, let's go back to the submerged passage. I need more mana. Oh. So again, don't be afraid to use your mana flasks, right? So you know, I'm low on mana, let's use my mana flask. I'm low on life, let's use my life flask. I'm running around with no enemies in front of me. Okay, let's use my quicksilver flask so I can run to the next pack, right? You don't need to play super optimized if you're racing and stuff. I mean, I'm assuming if you're a first time player, you're not, but you don't need to be that optimized. And then, but just, you know, try and use your quicksilver as often as you can. It lasts for 6 seconds. You'll get the charges back after you kill some monsters. There's really no hurting. You know, you don't lose anything for using it. Next zone we're going to go to is the Flooded Depths, completing this quest. And if you press U, you can actually see, like, here are my quests. Here are the places I'm supposed to go. There's a quest here called a Dirty Job. You could do that if you want, but it's an optional quest, and it doesn't give... It gives you... respec points. So in this game you actually don't get to freely respec your skills. It costs respec points, and those are kind of limited. By the end of the game or end of the campaign, you only get like 30, I don't know, like not many points. You could use a currency called a regret orb in order to get more points. And when I say currency, I mean in-game currency. This game doesn't have any pay to win of that sort where you can buy currencies or like buy, I don't know, oh my god, by quick level ups. Instead, most of the purchases, like in-game purchases you make with real money, is cosmetics. The only exception that's like sort of pay to win, and like I hesitate to call it pay to win, but you know, kind of mandatory. Like once you get to, I don't know, let's call it 300 hours in, is stash tabs basically. Once you get like later into the game, you, especially if you're someone who hoards items, you're gonna find that you want more stash tabs. Stash tabs also enable trading, or selling specifically. So you know, basically at some point you're gonna need stash tabs, but at that point you already know whether you plan on playing this game more or not, so it's not something you need to worry about right now. It's gonna be something you worry about 200-300 hours in, once you complete the campaign, so don't worry about that too much. Point being, you don't get too many refund points, and in order to use those refund points, you know, either use the 30 that you get at the end of the campaign, or you steadily get it throughout the campaign, or you use something called an Orb of Regret, but those orbs are kind of expensive. So, you know, if you screw up a character, typically what people do is they end up just re-rolling if you screw it up like super bad. So I'm pathing on the left side of my witch. I'm just grabbing all the spell damage notes right now. I'm just worrying about, you know, getting more damage. My focus is, you know, keep moving around so that you don't get frozen like how I did earlier, and die. You know, the game is difficult in that sense. You know, sometimes you get perma stun, you get perma frozen, so just keep moving, and then make sure you have enough damage so that you can actually clear these monsters at a reasonable pace, right? Okay, going back to gear, I was talking about gear. So life and resistance, couple exceptions, right? Obviously weapons, you're not looking for life and resistance, we already talked about that. You're looking for damage. And then boots, you're actually not looking for life and resistance either. You actually want to look for movement speed first. So I mentioned, just like how we picked up this Quicksilver Flask, which gives us movement speed. Movement speed is very, very important in this game. It makes it makes everything feel better. You move faster, you progress faster, you basically have more defense because you can try and dodge projectiles, you know, with your movement speed. So you want to try and get movement speed on your boots, and this aspect is, I think, the same as Diablo 4, right? Like, you want to try and get movement speed. It's basically the only piece of gear that gives you movement speed, with the exception of like unique items, you know, some shields, and like in the late game, and like late game items will give you movement speed on other pieces of equipment, but for the most part, basically only your boots will give you movement speed as you're going through the campaign. Which is also why, you know, movement skills like Frostblink is so important, just to give you the ability to you know, dodge out of attacks and move to the next area and so on and so forth, right? Okay, so once we killed that unique boss, the Dweller of the Deep, hopefully you saw it, you can return to town. A gamey way of doing it is to exit to character selection. So you can either portal out, right? And I'll show you that, right? And you portal out, you go back to town this way. It uses a portal scroll, which is a piece of currency again, right? So, and then, you know, you can go back to Flooded Depths. Or you could exit to character selection and then log back into the game, and then you'll be in town anyways. That's like the gamey way of doing it. And, you know, some of my friends do that. But, you know, I want to show you, here's how a portal works. I had one friend who thought portals were one way, so he would portal back to town and then run back to where he was before, which took obviously a long time, and he was complaining like, oh, I don't really use portal scrolls because, you know, I get back to town and then running back to where I was last just takes forever. And I was like, what are you talking about, right? But yeah, so portals are two-way. I can't believe I have to say that, but I guess that's the reality of things. And yeah, so let me ID my life flasks. So slowly just, you know, just start upgrading your gear, right? Like my helmet looks a little bit better now. It has, when I look at this, how am I reading the stats? It has 4 life and 10 lightning resistance. Okay, pretty good. Everything else, I'm like pretty much ignoring, right? So just keep all of that in mind. That's basically how I'm doing things from now on. And then we have other pieces of currency in here as well. So in my case, I have, whoa, I have a lot of currency because although I thought I made a character in Solo Self-Found, I guess I did it in Crucible League. But anyways, I'm gonna be ignoring that currency because I don't actually want to use it. Our character spell damage. I'm gonna start picking up some life and mana. So again, life is key, resistance is key. As you're pathing through, you know, your skill tree or your passive skill tree, trying to pick up more damage nodes or whatever it is you're trying to get, make sure to just get life along the way. Right, that's all I'm gonna say. Just make sure you do that, and you're gonna have a great time. Okay, and really those are the only. Is there anything else in terms of gearing? Oh, the only other thing for gearing is to make sure that you pick up items that have good links. So an example would be like the spike bundle, right? The spike bundle is 3 linked, right? So 3 sockets are linked. And the idea is you want to try and link one skill with as many support gems as possible. So I mentioned that at the beginning of this episode. So like say elemental proliferation is not really a good gem to link because it doesn't actually give damage. But like 20 to 30% every time you put on a support gem, in theory, it should increase like that skill's damage by 20 to 30%. So it's a big deal, right? Compared to here where it's just like 10%, but like it's additive damage. I don't want to get too deep into it, but basically the gist of it is like there's 2 kinds of multipliers in this game. There's increased damage and then there's more damage. So like 10% more damage or 10% increased damage. And they mean 2 different things. Increased damage means like if I already have 100% increased damage, 10% increased damage turns that 100% into 110%. Or if I already have 150%, right? 10% increased damage turns it from 150 to 160. So I would do like skill damage times 160%. But more damage is like if I already had 150% more damage, 10% more damage is a multiplier. So it would be like skill damage times 150% times another 10%, right? Like so 110% in that case. So more is typically always better. So skill gems, support gems typically give you something close to like 20 to 30% more skill damage, which is huge. So what you want to do is you want to find items with many links, 2 links, 3 links, 4 links, eventually 6 links, and then support it with, 1 skill and 5 support gems. And that's how you want to play it. I think a lot of players, probably somewhere around Act 4, Act 5, start to struggle because they're like, oh, I'm playing an ice witch and I'm using 6 different ice skills. They each are supported by like 1 support gem, but I'm not doing damage. It's kind of weird. Why? And the reason is, okay, instead of doing 6 skills, maybe go down to 2 skills and then have each of those 2 skills be supported by 3 support gems, right? Because 5 and 6 links are quite hard to get in this game. You're expecting to go from 1 link to 2 link pretty easily, 2 link to 3 link pretty easily. I already have a 3 link right here. And then somewhere around Act 3, you have 4 links, and then you're going to be stuck on 4 links probably until like Act 8 or 9, right? So try and get a 4 link skill as fast as possible. That's where most of your damage is coming from. On your passive skill tree, look for damage nodes that actually affect that 1 or 2 skills that you're looking for, right? So don't try to, I want to be a fire and lightning witch. Okay, sure, you could, but then don't go grabbing like fire passives and lightning passives because you're only half as effective. You could get spell damage, which affects both, all your spells if you're going fire and lightning witch. But the point is like don't spread yourself too thin, and then try and focus on just like 1 or 2 skills. Maybe instead of going fire skill and lightning skill, do 2 fire skills, right? If you really want to spread yourself that way. Honestly, that's it. Let's just start playing the game. Like in terms of gearing, like what should I pick up? How should I get more damage? What's worth picking up? What's worth keeping? That's the gist of it, right? Like you're always going to be upgrading, right? So when you find new pieces of armor, if you look for life, look for resistances. So like this thing, okay? This thing has 13 life. This thing has 6 resistance. I value life a little higher than resistance, so I'll equip it. But say this thing had like crazy resistance and this thing had 13 life, I would go for resistance, even though this thing is blue, right? And then look for damage on your weapons. But besides damage, even more importantly than that, look for links on your gear, and try to link your primary skill to as many support gems as possible.
Hello.
Look for movement speed on your boots. That's it. That's it, man. That's actually it. Everything else, you don't need to worry about, right? If you just follow those pieces of advice, you should be able to make it pretty far in this game. And anytime you find yourself going, hey, how come I don't have enough defenses? Do you have enough life? Do you have enough resistance? Hey, how come I don't have enough damage? Are you on a 4-link, or are you supported by only 1 or 2 support gems? And I think you're gonna get far. And I guess otherwise, maybe you're playing a trash skill, but for the most part, you can make it through the campaign with like any skill. With like an asterisk. Some are just like dumb skills that like don't make any sense, but for the most part, you can make it through a game with any skill. And if you're like, you can't figure out like how do I scale my skill, which is, I guess, it could be confusing. Mouse over your skill, like Freezing Pulse. It's a spell, it's a projectile, and it has cold. So those are the tags. So basically, in your skill tree, you can do Control F, look for everything spell. The spell damage, spell crit. Over here, more spell damage. Over here, cast speed, which just kind of affects spells. And then Control F, cold. Okay, there's a cold cluster over here. Figure out which clusters you want to go to, and as you pass through those clusters, pick up life, right? So like my plan is to go here, stop here, go up the cold cluster here, pick up the life along the way, go to this cold cluster, pick up the cold damage. Maybe I'll pick up the cold stuff over here, so I'll go this way, pick up the cold effect, cold stuff here, pick up life on the way. And as you just path through the tree, look for where the life clusters are, and just pick those up. Even if you're not super optimized, you're gonna have like a decent build going, whatever skill it is you're doing, right? It doesn't matter. Spell build, bow build, attack build, melee build, don't go too crazy. I find for new players, actually, spell builds work a little bit better, just because spells scale better off of gem levels, like your skill gem. So if you're like really stuck and you don't have enough damage, you could just like farm for a couple levels, and then you'll naturally get more damage. Whereas attack builds like bows and melee builds, like melee attack builds, tend to scale off of your weapon. So if you don't have enough damage, you have to craft or farm for a better weapon, which could be harder, right? Where for spells, you don't need to look for better gear. You just need to grind harder. But yeah, that's really it. That's all I have to say about gearing. I know it took a long time. In fact, we're an hour in. I'm losing my voice. And we're not that far into the game. I'm going super slow. And to be honest, that's how I play. I'm not gonna I don't want to make an excuse and say, oh, but that's because I'm talking while I'm playing, super distracted. It's not true. This is actually how I play. I play kind of slow. If you were to look at some of the streamers playing Path of Exile, they're zooming. And really, if you want to play optimized, that's what you want to do, right? You want to run through these packs because I'm level 9, this area is level 6. You want to be close to 2 levels under the level of the zone, so really I should be 6 zones further in, and instead of clearing the whole area as I'm passing by, maybe what I want to do is I just want to run through these mobs and then just drag a big pack, and once I have a big pack going like this, I clear them all at once. like that, and then maybe, okay, well, there's 2 stragglers left, I don't need to kill those, let's keep going, let's look for the next big pack. And then, you know, if you want to play optimized, that's basically how you want to do it. Not my style. Although I would like to do that as much as possible, especially since I don't have as much time to play these days anymore. I just, it's just not as fun. Sometimes I go autopilot in this game. I used to say this a lot. I think Path of Exile is actually, it's like a therapeutic game, because you just get in here and you just kill stuff, right? You get into this game and you just get into like this trance-like state. Where it's like you're meditating. It's super zen once you get like later into the game. It feels great, and you know, you just log in and you kill things, and it feels good. So I don't want to think about like, oh, I need to run super fast and I need to maximize my currency and EXP per hour. Not really thinking about that. If you want to play optimized though, right, I will say, if you want to play faster, if you want to be, I don't know, if you want more currency, if you want to farm for certain uniques in the late game, which you probably will at some point, you do want to look for ways to play more optimized. This game, you know, a lot of it is about finding loot, right? And in order to find more loot or better loot, you want to maximize how much loot you're getting per hour, which means you want to kill more things, right? Like but like, to me, I find it very easy to optimize the fun out of the game, so I just don't bother. But honestly, that's a personal preference. I know a lot of people are like, I'm a hardcore player, you know, I'm all about the 20-hour grind, and you know, trying to maximize the loot per hour and grinding a headhunter, which is like the super unique belt, you know, in a week or whatever. And honestly, you do you. I have some friends who play like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Path of Exile is kind of interesting because it's a hardcore game, right? Like, I won't deny it. It's sort of catered towards like players who can dedicate a lot of time, players who spend a lot of time just learning about the game. This game really is very much of like a knowledge is power kind of game, and you can kind of imagine, like, I know, if I know about like certain interactions between items, I'll know that like, oh, this could be a good build, you know. The company releases patch notes and I immediately see, oh wow, all of a sudden you have these new interactions that I could play, you know, that'll give me a leg up in the game, right? Or I know that, you know, these certain interactions are going to be more popular next league, because it's so OP, it's so strong. Holy cow. And therefore, you know, I'm going to try and craft those items or sell those items and try and make that profit before anyone else realizes that, you know, this is the build that you have to go for. So very much, you know, it is catered towards players who spend more time in this game, but at the same time, it actually plays really well for a casual player, as long as you're willing to basically not look at those top players, right? Because it's easy to look at some players at the top who have like all these crazy items and you have these crazy characters and go, why can't I be that guy? Well, that guy spent like 200 more hours than you per week, right? And like, you know, you just can't compete with that. But there's no reason to feel bad, because I feel like even if you play at a casual level, there's so much content in this game and so much to do in this game, that as long as you don't feel jealous of all those like high tier players, you know, doing all this crazy stuff, you're gonna have lots of fun playing this game. Okay, so real quick, I want to talk about some of this gear that we picked up, because I'm seeing some really good stuff. So first, I want to get a support gem, and I want to, this is maybe something that I haven't mentioned, but early on in the game, flat damage is a lot stronger than percent damage, right? Like you see, oh, like 15% more damage over time, or 10% more fire damage. Is that better than 1 to 10 added lightning damage? For the most part, I think flat damage just does better, and you can pretty much see it So like freezing pulse. Let's get a 3 link first of all, right? Like how am I prioritizing my gear? This one has attack speed, doesn't matter. So like between these two wands, 8% spell damage, 1 to 3 fire damage. I'm gonna take that. Not only does it have the flat damage, it has 3 links, 3 blues linked together. So I'm gonna link freezing pulse, arcane surge, and then you can kind of see freezing pulse damage per second 91.77. I added lightning damage to it. All of a sudden it jumps by a crazy amount from 91 to 148. So that's 50 more damage. That's like 50% more damage, right? So flat damage really good in the early game. So don't forget that. Over here we have these gloves, right? And if you compare the two gloves, these gloves have 17 life and 13 total resistance. These gloves have 13 life. That's an upgrade. I get more resistance and I get more life. Pure upgrade. There's other stats involved. I lose dexterity. I lose, gain life on per enemy killed, gain mana on enemy killed. Honestly, doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. These boots, right? Okay, this one has cold resistance and armor. These boots have movement speed and lightning resistance. Okay, movement speed, you can only roll it on boots, and that's like one of the most important stats. Resistance, even better. These boots are insane for like where I am right now. Gonna equip that. So just giving you. So I'm just trying to give you like an example of what I'm thinking of when I see these pieces of gear. Now, this bow, it's blue. Should I identify it? No, I only have 2 wisdom scrolls and I don't even use bows. This armor chest, honestly, this chest is already pretty good at 17 resistance. I don't think I'm gonna get anything better. I'm not gonna bother identifying it. This belt, not gonna bother identifying it. The ring I'm gonna ID just because I don't have a second ring. And it gives me 3 life. Sure, whatever. And that's basically the gist of it. So as you're going through the game, wisdom scrolls is a limited resource early on, so don't waste it. And that's the gist of it. We are currently in the prison. It's been an hour. I've been talking for it feels like 10-20 minutes. I haven't played PoE in a while. And I haven't recorded a video for a while. Time went by so fast, but I have to end it right here. I think I'm gonna be doing more, but I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know if this has been helpful. I know for those of you who've played PoE for any amount of time, right? If you played it for even 50 hours, this information might not be that useful to you. Maybe it's a refresher, probably not. But if anyone has any additional info you want to or any tips, feel free to leave it in the comments. If you have any feedback or you want to talk about how excited you are about the new league, how you feel about PoE 2, anything, feel free to leave it in the comments. We have a Discord channel, so as always, if you want to just come drop by and chill, I do hang around the Discord channel. Feel free to drop a message and we can hang out. Otherwise, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, as always, you can leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more updates in the future. Otherwise, keep in touch, guys, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye now.